Islam, 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 Islam. Peace and Hotep. We're back again, live after a little hiatus. You can just pass me that bag, please. I think I forgot something in there. Thank you.
Islam.
Yes, Islam. All right. First thing, Islam, bro, Omar. Right in time. All right. First and foremost, we need to put it on the record. 1704 Eglinton Avenue West. So 1704 Eglinton Avenue West, we got the Moor Science Temple of America, first ever temple in Canada. First ever since 1928, when Noble Drew Ali was here, or not here, but when he was in conversation with Madame Boutin and Oscar Boutin about bringing his program and his great missionary work to Toronto, you know, through lectures, etc. So, you know, there was a seed planted in 1928 with regards to Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish movement in Toronto specifically, right? That seed has now blossomed. All right. The contact for the temple, 647-748-6664. All right. And also too, don't forget, you can go to canaanlandmoors.webs.com. Secondly, the Moor Science Temple of America in Canada also houses the first ever Martial Sciences Temple. And the Martial Sciences Temple is headed by Grand Vanguard Adiza Hanib El. You can get in contact with him through iamcourage.webs.com. And on the I Am Courage website, you'll get all the information with regard to when classes are. I know the schedule's pretty packed, so if you are looking to better your martial sciences skills that they would call martial arts, or your Kupigane and Guni skills, contact the Grand Vanguard. And the I Am Courage phone number is 647-748-MONK. So 647-748-6665.
Yay!
Right. Right.
It's on!
Alright. Thirdly, not only does the Moor Science Temple of America for Canaanland, first one ever, house the temple activities as well as the Moor Sciences Temple, or the Martial Sciences Temple, we also have the first ever Moorish/Noble Drew Ali Museum. Alright. The museum consists of articles, artifacts, pictures, etc., dealing with the presence of the Moors wherever we may be. So if you have any information, if you have any pictures, if you have any artifacts, if you want to donate to the museum, you know, people have, you know, little things at their house that, you know, just sitting there, dust on it or whatever, and it's Moorish, you know, and you want to donate it to the temple, you can, or to the museum, you can contact the museum at 647-748-6664, or you can send pictures to Mang Ontario, that's MANG Ontario at gmail.com. All right, so today's class, the 15th of January, so this is our first class for, you know, a new year. All right. Today we're dealing with this I Don't Know More movement that's been in the news lots as of late. Right. We know what Moors do. We're going to start with the Prophet to put everything in perspective, so that people could people could see this and digest it as a call to those who claim to be Aboriginal and indigenous to the land, but don't say that they're Moors. And people who think that claiming to be Aboriginal and indigenous is the identity, when indigenous is just a characterization, a distinction, right? Just like native, right? So Nobuju Ali told the Moors, I brought you your nationality, your religion, and title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? Right? I brought you your nationality, your religion, and title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? Nobuju Ali also said, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality, proclaim your nationality, become a member of the Moor Science Temple of America if you have race pride and love your race and know that your condition could be better. If your condition is bad, join the temple, correct your status, and once you correct your status, things will start changing around for you. The depth of that lesson is that you have to have the mind of your ancient foremothers and forefathers in order to make your conditions better. So if you don't have the knowledge of your ancient foremothers and forefathers, then you pretty much void yourself of anything you're saying out of your mouth, because your actions are not going to display that you know what you're talking about. Right?
Oh, in essence, you'll be out of character.
Out of character, right? Because the body and the mind are united on the earth plane.
But they should be.
Right? So being that they're united, one of them is the obverse and one of them is the reverse. One of them is the head, one of them is the tail. One of them is the foreground, one of them is the background.
One of them is the higher one.
One of them is the higher, one of them is the lower. So if we think with the lower first and then move to the higher, contradiction, you fail. If you have a higher perspective, then that could only lead to higher things. Because with you having a higher mindset, there'll be a higher energy around you. There'll be a higher frequency of people in your vicinity. Right? You're not going to have weirdos coming around you if your mentality is on a higher frequency. Right? And majority of people get in trouble because they bring their mentality onto a low frequency. Now you have all these crazy people around you. And their energy is going to influence
you, obviously.
Influence you, but more influence you to attract what they are dealing with. Problems, issues, whatever. Right? So the first issue at law is status. And we know that law governs all events, and we're not talking about white man's law and European man's law or whatever. We're talking about universal principles. Don't change, don't pass away. They're there, they exist, so let's govern ourselves lawfully, since law governs everything. You can't escape it, right? Just like status, you can't escape status. You can't get around status. You can't give status a deep move and go file UCC and think you're going to be saved. Or you can't make the statement status, but then don't know what that is, right? So the Idle No More movement, well, let's start with that. Idle. The most idle thing you can do is protest. Nothing ever comes out of protest, other than people wasting gas, wasting time and energy. Because protests do not assist you unless you have a nationality. Protests are not going to be in your favor if you're stateless. Protests are not in your favor if you're claiming to be something that you're not. You might as well not do anything, because you know the idle no more movement is a stagnant movement. They're not really making any headway in anything. They're no different than Occupy movement.
But what I also sensed was this "I Don't Know More" protest was her going on a hunger strike, right?
Right. Yeah, we're gonna go into yeah, we're gonna get yeah.
No,
We're
but I
gonna
just
get
realized to me, or I thought, what a sort of. I mean, then I was watching the news and I saw that there were. She had actually sort of caused. Sorry to interrupt.
No.
She actually caused people to, I guess, get up and protest, like not protest, but actually do things where
Right.
they were going to government
Right.
and sort of showing up with their, well, protesting, right? But to me, her actions seemed to initiate other people to really take action.
Right, and what we were talking about. If your mind frame isn't where it's supposed to be,
Right.
if your mind frame is not where it's supposed to be,
Mhm.
and you have a lower vibration,
Mhm.
other people will influence you, which is exactly what you're saying, right? Because we're gonna get into Miss Spence and all that stuff, because you know we're talking about a chief, so-called native chief, right? Named Spence. This is the native chief. This is a head,
Her name is Spence.
and her name is Spence,
That says it right there.
right? So we're going to go to this article from the website kevinannette.com. If you never heard about Kevin Annette, I suggest that you go on YouTube and you look up a video called Unrepentant, and you watch that video, right? Unrepentant. So this is from kevinannette.com. We're not going to read all of it, but we'll read some of it. This is from December 30th, 2012. Stupid no more. Waking up to the uses and abuses of our discontent, or follow the money dummy. It's the name of the article. Right? And this is on kevinannette.com. Anybody, you could go check it out. Ours is a disappointed age. The end times did not arrive after all with the close of 2012. But Canadians at least have been given a small consolation of a sort, that is, if you believe their corporate media, who are suddenly raving about a new supposedly grassroots, quote-unquote, grassroots Aboriginal protest movement that pundits claim is sweeping the country and calling itself the quite non-Aboriginal name, Idle No More. So this is the indigenous movement, right? Aboriginal movement. And it's called Idle No More, which is totally non-Aboriginal or indigenous or native or whatever. All right. First point. The protests of this mysterious group are undeniably real, as are the hundreds of eager, often non-Aboriginal demonstrators who are about to work up as Canadians can, who are about as worked up as Canadians can get over anything. But what exactly is this thing called Idle No More, and who runs and pays for it, is anybody's guess. The latest carefully managed demonstrations arrive right out of the blue, as only prefabricated dissent can, and has as its poster person an appropriately sympathetic figure, Chief Teresa Spence, from the poverty-stricken Atswapakat Reserve in Ontario. Let's read to that. Sorry, let me just check something.
Where, sorry?
I just stopped right there.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, just read from there to that.
So,
Going back.
okay. The protests of this mysterious group are undeniably real, as are the hundreds of eager, often non-original demonstrators who are about as worked up as Canadians can get over anything. But what exactly is this thing called Idle No More? And who runs and pays for it? Is anybody's guess. These latest carefully managed demonstrations arrived right out of the blue, as only prefabricated dissent can, and has as its poster person, it's already been ran, Okay. Has as its poster person an appropriately sympathetic figure, Chief Teresa Spence from the poverty-stricken Attawapiskat Reserve in Ontario. Chief Tess has been conducting a one-woman hunger fast to force Prime Minister Harper to halt his legislation. Bill C-45 that allows the government to sell Indian reservation land without first consulting the local state-funded tribal council chiefs. Wow, now that's an issue to go to the barricades over, eh? Well, maybe for reservation council chiefs like Teresa Spence and her organization, the states-funded Assembly of First Nations, who obviously need to improve their bargaining position with Ottawa, and who are most likely the originators of the whole movement. But how does any of that help your average poverty-stricken Indians, most of whom live off reservations? Besides, it's all bullshit anyways. Under the Indian Act, the government can hardly sell off any reservation land they want without first checking with their puppet chiefs, since all reserve land is owned by the fiction called the Crown. Hey, you mean this whole issue is a big fraud and a red herring? Surely not in Canada. It seems that all those unfortunate Idle No More activists are being seriously lied to, and by the very people under whose banner they are protesting. That upstart class of native wannabe capitalists who want to profit off the sale of their own people's land without having the feds interfere. On such wannabe, Chief Ed John from northern BC has pocketed millions of dollars since the 1980s by forcing his own carrier Sakini people off their lands and signing illegal deals with Alcan and other mining companies. Ed's now a senior Canadian official at the United Nations and a vocal supporter of Idle No More. Surprised? I hope not. For none of this is new. History is replete with examples of masses of people being conned to fight and die for the interest of various elites, whether they be white or dark-skinned. Such movements are always created suddenly from the top down, just as Idle No More has been, trumpeting salvation for those who are duped into being the steam in somebody else's engine, and who gain nothing at the end of the day. After all, how exactly will any of my dying Aboriginal friends on Vancouver's mean streets benefit from the defeat of Bill C-45, or all the moms on reservations who watch their kids decay as the housing and jobs and drugs are dealt out to the friends and family of the local chief? In a word, not one bit. I don't doubt Chief Teresa's sincerity, but she is, after all, the front piece of a machine controlled from elsewhere, and what matters is not figureheads, but who and what they represent. So, shall I go keep going?
No, yeah, we'll just cut it. So for the rest of the article, you can go to kevinannette.com. Right, so we just wanted to put.
So just sort of for my
Put that out there,
clarification,
yeah.
what I'm understanding it again is that just the same way as black, colored, and Negro are misnomers,
Right.
this Indian situation is the same for them.
Right.
They are Moors descent too, in a
Right.
sense. But this Indian class classes them as a I think not a non-beginner, but it classes them as a 14th Amendment sort of citizen.
Situation, right.
And this is sort of parallel to that situation where what they've then done is, because the people are following by this and have given these so-called chiefs the ability and their energies. This is exactly the same sort of situation, except that in this situation, these people are all following one leader, sort of like we, as quote-unquote blacks do in the States, following our leader guys as well.
Who are agents for central, federal, municipal, etc., and have no intentions of
really giving us our nationality.
Right. Because nationality is the order of the day.
That's right.
And when we go back and we research Noble Drew Ali, and you find out that he's Cherokee,
and you realize and he's Moor.
Right? But he never called himself Indian.
Right. Cherokee's
he's Cherokee.
That's a tribe. Cherokee is almost just like the designation to being. He's Moorish, but he's a Cherokee. He's from an area, from a Cherokee area in a sense. Is that right or no? What is Cherokee? Cherokee's
the tribal name.
The tribal name.
Right.
But Moor is the
encompassing
is the class
nationality. Right. So the tribal name or the tribe that he came out of is Cherokee. Right?
As is Washita.
Right.
Okay.
Now, if you if you just ask around, what's Cherokees? Oh yeah, those are Indians. All right, cool. So Noble Drew Ali was an Indian, black Indian, right? The black Indian came and said, "You're not black Indians. You're not Negro, black, colored. You're Moors." So he was talking to the nations. He wasn't just talking to Moors
Which
only.
in a sense back to the day of the Iroquois nations too.
Right, which is the foundation of the United States Constitution, right? And Iroquois, they say those are Indians. Cool.
But Indian is the misnomer.
Right, that's the misnomer. But for
for whatever
lack of a better
right,
right, just so we can tie all this thing together, we'll just play with misnomers, right? So there's a black Indian. Noble Drew Ali said that you're not Indian, you're not Negro, black, colored, you're Moors. How do we know that he said you're not Indian? Because he was a Cherokee, and he called himself Moor. So that means all the Indians are Moors
as well.
And nationality is the order of the day. And Noble Drew Ali, I brought you your nationality, your religion, and title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? Because if he doesn't do it, there's people who are. King Alfred plan is in order.
That's basically what he's saying. Basically, if you're not going to claim your stuff, you may as well.
You might as well die
and let me do it for you.
You know, at least it's the prophet killing you, opposed to some foreigner that you don't even know where he comes from, right? And again, like we're saying with the parallel, we have to bring in King Alfred plan, so people can get it in their mind why you're fighting a losing battle, going and assisting these people. Now, don't get me wrong, we're not against our Indian so-called brothers and sisters. We're not, saying this out of malice or to degrade them or anything. We're saying this that you need to step your game up, because y'all been messing around with fake treaties, messing around with calling yourself stuff that you're not, when you should know better.
And in a sense, as long as they get the compliance of so-called Native or Indian leaders to do this, and as long as we agree in our energies, because like what Taj was saying, you can't sell an estate.
Right.
So they're selling stuff.
So right there,
the stuff that can't even be sold.
So you're making so the argument about Bill C-45 and it's allowing Stephen Harper to sell reserve lands without permission of the Indians. That reserves is their jurisdiction. Reserves isn't the native people's jurisdiction. That's not their reserve, right? They push it like it's theirs.
But that's in a sense that's why I believe part of all of this has to do with the energies, because in a sense, as long as we sign on to it,
then the contract is sealed.
That's right. Because what did he say too? Fraud is fraud as long as we as long
right.
as
Nobody challenges it, and they're not challenging it. They're protesting.
And what's happening is they're paying off a certain guys.
Heads, right? No different than they paid off, A guy and B guy and C guy in our so-called liberation of ourselves, right? Our people need to find themselves, whatever. Okay, well, we're going to support this guy. Okay, and he's doing the same thing. Or yeah, let's go march, let's go picket, let's go, whatever. Same thing that Idle No More is doing, when that's the most idle thing you can do, right? King Alfred plan deals with extinguishing the minority, which includes Indians. Now we're going to go to these people that say that they're Aboriginal, Indigenous, or whatever, right? Oh yeah, no, we don't like that term. Don't call me Indian, because that's derogatory. That's a misnomer, whatever. You got ID to prove that you're Indian? Yeah, let me see that. And then they're going to show you an Indian tax card. It says Indian right on it. All these reserve people that they're fighting for Stephen Harper to get rid of this bill that is going to allow them to be able to sell reserve land. They have the card that those same guys right gave them, and now they're complaining about it.
Well, we realize these are all little payoffs. just to sort of continue the fraud.
To distract everybody from the profit. And all these so-called, black Indians are getting caught up right up in this. Because ample amounts of our people go support this idle no more thing. Without even, and it's not even rocket science. Just today before class, I got that Kevin Annette article. It's not no research in the library 5 hours. You just punch in idle no more. And that's probably maybe the third thing that came up in the, right? So there's a consciousness out there with regard to the idle no more movement and this whole status issue that these people that claim to be Indians or Cree or Ojibwe or whatever it is that they claim, right? Whatever it is that they claim, their issue is that they're running a fraud. Their problem, just like us, is that nobody wants to blame the leader. Everyone wants to blame, oh yeah, the white man did it, and the devil did it, and this guy's in a conspiracy with these people all across the planet to try to do this.
It's really their leader.
When it's really their own, inside their own tribes, chiefs selling them out.
Their own agents.
Right?
But to take it a step further, it's not our leaders, it's us.
That too.
They can't lead if we ain't there to be led.
Right, right. So it comes back to
this has to do with us being in agreement with the fraud.
Right.
Right.
And the only way that the fraud is going to exist and ever does exist is based on consent.
As long as you keep calling yourself Indian.
You're consenting.
Right. Not calling yourself, because remember, it's almost like a ploy, right? Because they'll tell you that they're not Indian, but they'll have the card in their pocket that says Indian on it, and they'll go get all their tax breaks, and they're not concerned about not being Indian, like you're saying, once they get their handout or their tax break or their whatever, right? But that means that you can't go and fight, you can't protest now, because you agreed to be the fiction. You willingly agreed to be the fiction. Opposed to, right, it's just like with Moors that want to go and make a claim on the straw man. Or want to do something with it. Or, but what David say? You can't do anything with that. All you can do is navigate with that. But you can't own that. You can't make a claim on that to be the executor of that thing. Because, I'm a Moor, and I know that they've been, doing A, B, C, D, E with me, right? Through these instruments. So now I'm gonna take possession of these instruments, so that way they can't do that to me anymore. No, that's stealing. So they still got you.
Once you play that game, if you are using that instrument, then
get abused. Because you're supposed to be messing with the thing. Nobody Ali told you, if you don't do anything else, declare your nationality. I brought you your nationality, your religion, title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? What do you want me to do? I can't do anything else. I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Right? I brought you your nationality, title to your vast estate and your religion. I brought you your government. I brought you your flag. I brought you your creed. I took the state of mind of your ancient foremothers and forefathers and put it in you. Because that's what Circle 7 and all the studying that we do, all these books that we have, that we read, all these DVDs we watch, that's the energy, that's the mind state of our foremothers and forefathers. That certain people decided, instead of holding it in a corner, we'll put it out there so everybody has it. Because it's really everybody's. Right? So they have the assembly of the First Nations. Right? These are the ones that are heading the whole,
I don't know.
heading it, but these are the ones that's in the news and stuff like that. These are the people that the higher ups, so-called higher ups in Canada are dealing with. Right? Now, we can clearly see right? You can clearly see mundane cross, master seal, circle 7. You can clearly see up here mundane cross, right? Master seal, circle 7. And like you said, the eye.
As well as if you look at the
Right.
7, the 7,
The 7 feathers on the bottom,
which represents the
right?
7 below M.
Right? Because they'll tell you that feathers are sacred and all that stuff. Every time you see a so-called native, they hold a feather and they're got the feather, right? Because what feather? From who? Where the feathers come from? What bird they use?
Eagle?
Okay, so they take the eagle feather
The eagle is what's on the thing, which is
and the eagle, right? Okay, the eagle is representative of a Heru, right? So is the falcon, right? But they deal with more science, ultimately. So they're Moors. So are you playing around? Like the circle 7's right here, right? The 7 in the circle with the 4 breaks.
Oh, the 7,
Right?
the 7, the 7,
7.
the 7 leaves represent the
They
7.
represent the 7.
7.
There's the circle, there's the 4 breaks. But they're not going to say that they're Moors. They're going to say that they're the assembly of First Nations. Right? Okay, cool. That's your position. Let's see, let's, all right. So the assembly of the First Nations. This is a quote from Shawnee Chief, once again, using these fake names to distinguish who they are. Right? Brother Tecumseh, 1795.
Sorry, this one said, in a sense, by naming themselves under the names of the oppressors, if they were to name themselves under their true national names, at that point the fraud would be exposed.
The true national name is Moors.
That's, okay,
The names that they use might be tribal, or you know, it might not be necessarily European. Put that name on them.
Sorry,
right?
I was sort of
but
thinking,
yeah, no, but
I was sort of thinking that the fact of almost using the tribal name rather than the national name.
And the national name. That's where the issue is.
That's where the issue
right,
is.
Because the quote unquote government
because
that
they're into that jurisdiction.
Right. But the government that they're pleading to do whatever with them, right? We'll say Canadian government, right? The Canadian government is attached to the U.S. government.
Corporation.
Yeah, corporation, republic, whatever.
But even
Right?
Canadian government is a corporation
right.
too.
But they're connected to the U.S.
Yeah.
Right? The U.S. is connected to Morocco.
The U.S.
The U.S. The U.S., the U.S.A, the United States of America,
Right.
the United States of America Republic, whatever you want to call it,
It's connected to it.
it's connected to Morocco.
Oh, through the treaties and through the Constitution.
So if you already have a treaty that binds these people that you're complaining to respect and honor Aboriginal rights, whatever, what are you protesting about?
It would automatically put all that stuff into.
It's already an international
It's already an international
matter.
European matter.
Because you're talking about violation of a treaty,
That's right.
which is known as the longest standing treaty in the world. That's a fact. The treaty between the United States and Morocco is the longest standing treaty in the world.
As well as, like you say, back to that estate law stuff, which when I was studying some of that stuff, basically, you cannot sell land that's not yours to sell.
Right.
Which is what this guy's trying to do with this bill.
But again, the land he's talking about is only on paper. He's not talking about the land. He's talking about a paper jurisdiction that they created and got everybody to think that the paper is the land. And now everybody's mad that they're selling, that they want to sell the paper and protesting. Opposed to, okay, let them sell it and then claim your land back. We have to look at what the foreign powers are doing from different perspectives.
Yeah.
They are liquidating their assets because they're bankrupt. A reserve is an asset of the Canadian government. It's their property. They're bankrupt. When you bankrupt, you sell stuff. When you go file Chapter 7, bankruptcy, Chapter 11, or whatever, right? Whatever bankruptcy it is, whatever level of bankruptcy it is, right? You're claiming that you have nothing. So how are you going to get stuff back? You're going to sell all that stuff that you have that they allowed you to keep because you filed bankruptcy. You get a credit card and you file bankruptcy. They don't come for the stuff. You get to keep everything. You get to keep all the stuff that you bought with the card, whatever money that they're saying you owe them but you didn't pay.
Right.
And then you're saying, well, I can't pay, so I'm going to file bankruptcy. Okay, well then they should come back take the stuff. Like, logically, why would you not take the stuff back?
What would happen is they would want you to sell all the stuff that you had to try and pay back.
That's how it's supposed to go.
Right.
But because we're under occupation by foreigners, and in a bankrupt system, everything's bought and paid for already, all we're doing is just trading paper. Right? Then
they're basically taking the energies.
Right. They're taking the energies and we're taking the paper.
Yeah.
Right? So the government of Canada is saying, okay, well, since that's our property, right, we're going to sell it. Get all these people riled up. Now they're taking that energy. And they don't even care about the reserve. Because they know that it's paper. They want the energy.
About the energy.
Right? We can call it, vampirism or whatever,
That's what it is.
Right? But because there's no fangs,
and we don't see
it might not be taken that seriously.
Right.
Right? So the Assembly of the First Nations, AFN, right? The Assembly of the First Nations is the national representative organization of the First Nations in Canada. There are over 630 First Nation communities in Canada. The AFN Secretariat is designed to present the views of the various First Nations through their leaders in areas such as Aboriginal and treaty rights, economic development, education, languages and literacy, etc. The chiefs meet annually to set national political. The present national chief of the Assembly of First Nations is Sean Atleo. The chiefs meet between the annual assemblies, blah blah. So you can just go on the website AFN and they'll set you up. Now, the chief, the national chief right now is Sean Atleo, right? Sean Atleo just took a leave of absence, like last week or something like that. Took a leave of absence, right? Because it is said that the pressures of
office,
the meetings and the schedules or whatever. Doctor said you need to chill, right? So we got his statement for that. We'll put that on the record, right? Now, interestingly, on January 14th, 2013, Atleo took a medical leave from his leadership and handed over his duties to Roger Augustin, Perry Bellegarde, and Jody Wilson Raybould. So Roger Augustin, Augustine, Perry Bellegarde, Bellegarde, and Jody Wilson Raybould, WILSON-RAYBOULD. Atleo is expected to return to his role in 10 days or once he has recovered. Now, just to put something on the record, he is a recipient of the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. We're talking about a chief. Now, if you're the head of, or you're the national representative of the Assembly of First Nations, and you have a medal from the Queen, who's the monarch or the head,
Who's the oppressor?
the head oppressor of Canada that Stephen Harper works for,
Something else.
why are you going to Stephen Harper to stress your grievances? If the jurisdiction of Canada is under the Queen, and you have a medal from the Queen, obviously the Queen knows who you are. So if the Queen knows who you are, why are you taking your grievances to the Queen's subordinate? Why don't you just go to the top? Why is there hair in your food and you're arguing with the cashier?
And you know the chef.
Right? Arguing with the cashier. Arguing to the point where man has to take a leave of absence. Oh, just to put this on the record, his birthday's tomorrow.
Okay.
When you want to get a day off work and it's your birthday, what you tell him?
You're sick.
Oh. January 16th, his birthday. Right. Statement from National Chief Sean Atleo on his decision to take leave. First Nation citizens. Right?
Okay.
First Nation citizens.
Puts you in a different jurisdiction right there.
Right? Because I would like to see the flag that represents the First Nations, first of all.
Right.
Not every individual nation within the First Nations, the First Nations.
Right.
And if they're first, they should be called Moors, not First Nations.
Yeah.
Have just witnessed one of the most important chapters in our recent history. Through the pressure of grassroots and sacrifices made by Chief Spence and her fellow strikers, and the work of many regional chiefs and national executives of AFN, we have seized the attention of Canadians and this government. We forced open the door to the Prime Minister's office and to the Governor General. We achieved a commitment to the personal leadership of Prime Minister, the Privy Council office, and other senior ministers. Now they know that the whole world is watching what progress we make. Now they understand the consequences of failure. We have a responsibility to work together to push forward our work that relates to each of the 8 elements that emerge from our discussions this week. On treaty, on comprehensive claims, resource revenue sharing, whatever. You could just Google a statement from National Chief Sean Atleo on his decision to take leave. Now what I also want to just put out there is the First Nations National Chief choice of headwear that he wants to wear.
Wow.
There's Chief Atleo, First Nations National Chief, and there's Moorish National Grand Chief Dawid Aliel, who just did the lecture with, wearing a cone fez. And there's First Nations National Chief who just took leave, wearing the cone fez. Right? So certain people are clear about Moors and what's up. Certain people who are followers, they're lost. They don't even know what's going on in their own jurisdiction that they're going out there protesting for. Oh yeah, there was another thing too in this. The Assembly of the First Nations receives most of its operating funds from the Department of Indian Affairs.
Sorry, say that again. The First Nations?
The Assembly of First Nations receives most of its operating funds from the Department of Indian Affairs, which is another government quasi-agency. And all these so-called sincere Aboriginal people are running out there under that banner. When the head of the national chief wears a fez, the logo has Circle 7, the Master Seal, the mundane cross, so that you know that they're dealing with the universal laws of nature. It's not a secret, right? But these people out here calling themselves all these misnomers. You know, I mean, we can see why, because they're following the leadership, like Moko was saying, right? And it's their fault. It's not the leadership's fault. Leadership's just doing what they're paid to do. No different than Moors following dirty leaders. When Prophet's words are right there, he told you, he brought you everything to save a nation. You're gonna, you know, it's like, you know, when we were first coming into the movement and we go to Moors and we ask Moors for stuff. You know, like, you know, we're trying to build up our libraries, whatever, you know, we need Circle 7, we need, you know, what you guys got, your temple. Well, we gotta go ask the Grand Sheik to see if, you know, we can give you that or copy that or sell this to you, or what are you talking about? Why do you have to go to the Grand Sheik to get permission to sell Circle 7? Isn't that supposed to be standard stuff that, you know, you just give, well, you know, we got to talk to the Grand Sheik to see if, this is the position that they're in, right? Following the sellout leaders into oblivion, right? Now, there's some background into how it kicked off that all this stuff got given away, all this stuff got taken, right? You know how they ended up on reserves and all that type of stuff, right? Majority of it is their own leader, right? Their own leaders that sold out, right? Saint Kateri Tekawitha, Tekakwitha, baptized as Catherine Tekawitha and informally known as Lily of the Mohawks, is a Roman Catholic saint who was an Algonquin Mohawk virgin and religious laywoman. Born in the present-day New York, she survived smallpox and was orphaned as a child, then baptized as a Roman Catholic, and settled for the last years of her life at the Jesuit mission village of Kanawaki, south of Montreal in New France, now Canada.
This is who?
This is the first canonized quote-unquote native, right? So this is the pattern, right? Now, 1671, Mohawk chief Ganegowa, Ganeagowa, who had led his survivors to victory against the Mohicans, returned from a long hunting trip in the north to announce he had become a Christian. Traveling through the forest along the southern bank of the St. Lawrence River, he had discovered a Catholic Iroquois village set up by Jesuits. southeast of Montreal. There he made friendly contact with priest Jacques Fremin, Fremin, who had served as a missionary in Mohawk country. Influenced by the Catholic faith of the Iroquois villagers and of his own wife, Satekon, Satekon, Ganigoa received instruction for several months from Father Fremin, who then accepted him into the church. And if we go back and we check the records, you'll find out that this is Spanish Inquisition operations and Christian Black Codes operations working in army, right? To get the remnants of, because at this time, remember, we're talking about 1671, right? This is even before the United States and all that.
Right. So this is the Jesuits who are over here doing all
right,
that kind of
doing
stuff.
getting their work done, right? Getting their work done that they needed to do, while we were laying, right? Or while we were doing like what Noble Jolly said not to do, and amalgamating with the European.
Well, my sense is that almost you can read through the lines. Who's to say what kind of stuff was going on? Or when you say to me it took him weeks before he was then accepted into the church,
right?
How do you know he wasn't being tortured? Right.
In order to
right,
exactly, right. So as soon as we realize that there's what do you call that? Assimilation. As soon as we realize that people are doing things kind of against their will, willingly against their will, be prepared for agents and sellouts and people of that nature, because that's the only reason why they're doing that to those people, to make them agents, right? You're not going to torture a guy to keep him alive unless he's going to be an agent
or some use to you,
or some type of use, right? And then when they're done with you, they throw you off the ship.
Well, isn't that guy the chief? Isn't that what you're saying? He was the guy who was walking.
Yeah, that was a chief, Mohawk,
of course.
Yeah, right. Go with the heads.
They kill him.
No different.
They kill him. You got a real problem.
Right.
Convert him. He becomes your
ally.
That's right.
Right. Now we're gonna go back slightly to Teresa Spence and just get a little background of Spence to qualify her position even with the name Spence.
Yeah.
Right? Spence is a very interesting name. Is of early medieval Anglo-Scottish origins, introduced by the Norman French after the invasion of England in 1066. It was a metonymic occupational surname for someone who was originally in charge of the pantry or great house or monastery.
Sorry, because he stepped in here. You're saying that this is the definition of her name?
Yeah, this is the Spence name that she has,
right,
from Europe.
They are doing a heritage of what that name.
Right. Yeah, what the name means
and
where
saying
it came from.
Represents something back. A pantry.
It's
Sorry.
Someone who was originally in charge of the pantry of a great house or monastery.
Okay.
The term derives from the pre-10th century Old French word dispense, from the Latin dispender, meaning to weigh out or dispense. In Chaucer's Canterbury Tales, the glutton in the Sumner's tale is described as being all violent as bottle in dispense. The modern surname can be found as Spence, Spencer, and the Scottish form Spens, S-P-E-N-S, Spencer, S-P-E-N-S-E-R, and Despenser, D-E-S-P-E-N-S-E-R. In the governor's list of inhabitants of the colony of Virginia, New England, and compiled on February 16, 1923, One William Spence, his wife, and their child are shown as living at James Island near Elizabeth City. A coat of arms depicting a black boar's head erased between two red bars on a silver shield with the motto Patior ut Patiar, I endure as I enjoy, was granted to the family of the name at Berryhole in Fife, Scotland. The first recorded spelling of the family name is shown to be of Simon Del Spens. This was dated 1300 in the charters of Grisborne Priory, Yorkshire, during the reign of King Edward I, known as the Hammer of the Scots. And what was the movie with Martin Lawrence? And they call him a Moor in the whole movie? Black Knight. Right? The Scots, the original Scots, the Scots themselves of dark olive origin. Ireland was once known as Scotia Magna, and Scotland was called Caledonia until about the 3rd century AD, after the defeat of the Moors, when a tribe invaded Caledonia and the name was changed to Scotia. The Irish are said to have derived the name Scotia from the daughter of an Egyptian pharaoh named Scota, S-C-O-T-A. The original Egyptians were dark olive. Egyptian is a word of Greek origin which means long hair. One of the original names was Chemis. The construction of Stonehenge has been attributed to giants who sailed from what the Europeans call Africa, bringing their skills with them. The presence of giants may not necessarily be a figment of the imagination. Giants have been mentioned in the Bible. There were a dark olive Canaanite people called Anakim. When the dark olive Hebrews first saw them, they realized how small they were themselves. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come from the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. Numbers 13:33, and that's from Clock of Destiny. And then when you look at the Spence family crest, right, like they said, they have the white shield, right, with the red dragon, and then they have the black, we'll call that a sash going across the shield. On top of the shield, you have the knight's helmet, which is the replacement that they did later when they started removing the blackamoor heads in Europe under the instruction of the Queen, that said that we're kicking all these blackamoors out. Right? Now also on this, you notice that there's seashells. Right? You know, you got some connection to conch shells. Right? Take a look at that. Now, with regard to the seashells, mythology meets the Moors with sea creatures everywhere. Article by Essam Al-Ghalib, September 2nd, 2011, Dubai. There must be very few luxury hotels in the world where those checking in would be delighted to be told the bedroom and bathroom of their suite was underwater. For those fortunate enough, one look at the Neptune suite at the Atlantis the Palm Hotel dispels any thoughts of sodden towels and soggy carpets. The Neptune suite is unlike any at the Atlantis in the Bahamas, unlike any suite in the Gulf and possibly unlike any in the world, says Ian Connolly, who has worked on the Atlantis project since the beginning. The bedroom and bathroom are underwater. You look out and you see all kinds of aquatic life swimming by. In 2005, Mr. Connolly and others involved in the construction had to get to the site by boat, as there was nothing but sand where the hotel, a sister to the Atlantis property in the Bahamas, stands today. He remains at the Atlantis as a senior vice president of facilities and is one of the most familiar with the story behind the landmark hotel in Palm Jumeirah, Gumeirah. Saul Kerzner was approached in late 2003 by representatives of Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, vice president of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, to put a finishing touch on the Palm, a centerpiece, Mr. Connolly said. They said they wanted an Atlantis hotel built. Architects from Kerzner went to work on the design to give it a more Arabian feel. The overall shape is based on the Bahamas design, where there is the central arc with a bridge suit above. But for the Gulf, we decided to have more Moorish design in our exterior. You can see this in the Moorish arch as compared with the square one in the Bahamas, and you can also see this in some of the turrets. Mr. Kerzner, the South African chairman and chief executive of Kerner International Resorts, says, "I challenged the designers to come up with something that captured the essence of Atlantis, the wonder, the water, the sense of discovery, yet with distinct Arabian elements, holding true to the story of the mystical lost city of Atlantis and its lost chambers. Designers aim to create an aquatic theme throughout. You can see that the marlins, the dolphins, and the conch shells throughout the property, mainly in the public places," Mr. Connolly said. "If you walk through the public areas and look at the details, you will see various aquatic life. If you take time to notice the detail on the Dale Shehuli centerpiece in the lobby, you will see jellyfish. That was all hand blown. Again and again you will see aquatic life. The story of Atlantis, the mythical island that was swallowed by the ocean, is depicted in 8 murals 90 meters above the lobby floor. They were painted by Albino Gonzalez, one of the world's foremost interpreters of ancient mythology, in his studio in Leon, Spain. In them, Gonzalez depicts the development of the solar calendar, highlighting various constellations and planets and the story of Atlantis. The murals represent the sea suns of the year and the 4 elements: earth, air, wind, and fire. Same, circle 7. The aquatic theme is continued in the furniture, the carpets, the lamp fixtures, and everywhere guests might look if they study the details. It is also on show in each of the hotel's 1,539 rooms and suites." This was the Dubai, the hotel in Dubai, that they copied Moorish architecture in order to create that, right? Now, back to our friends. This belongs to the Squamish Nation.
That's a fez, isn't it?
It certainly looks like a fez. I don't want to speculate or anything, but you know, right?
You got 2 on the right and 5 on the left.
Oh man!
You never be
man!
Right?
Right? So here's the Squamish Nation's welcome
totem pole.
Totem pole. This is the welcome totem pole. Just let people digest that. So-called Indian tribe.
And
in the Americas.
almost to me what that represents is maybe that's, you know how in a sense if someone were coming to visit you, you put out, like, you know, if they were from I don't know, I'm trying to think of an analogy, you know, if someone came from Ireland, you put out the whiskey.
Right. Right.
This is almost like
Right.
this is almost to the people coming.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, remember. Right.
I'm just
But
saying
with
that people.
with the people coming, right? The people that are coming,
Right.
if that's the case, that they're putting this for the people that's coming,
Right.
to know, you know, to invite them to come,
Moors.
right? The Moors,
Right.
right? For them to use this, that would mean the people coming would have to be able to identify,
That's my point.
yeah,
That's my
with this.
point. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's almost like, hey guys, come on.
Come on,
That's right. We welcome you.
right? Yeah, and this goes back to what Brother Trevor was saying.
Or the other way, this is representing who
Of
we
who
are.
we are.
Either way.
Either way, it's talking about the Moors, and they're not Indians.
I wanted
Right.
to now. I've been waiting. I've been dying to talk about this. For some reason, I was over at a friend's house yesterday. I don't watch a lot of TV. I was watching this movie or show called Bones, and it's about, you heard about Bones, right?
Yeah.
It's a lady who. So, anyways, the whole premise of the story, they find this dead body, and he's been going around to all these different archaeological digs all over the world. And what he's been doing is that he's had a deal who's been connected with a European Texan who is buying all of his artifacts that he gets that disprove the fact that we're only 6,000 years old. Right? So this is how it goes. They find him dead, so they start to think that maybe it's this Texan guy, because supposedly he went on a dig, but they didn't find any artifacts. But his wife comes and she has a key to a locker room, which they go to. They then find these bones, which she then goes, you know, her name is Bones,
Yeah.
and they go to figure out that they find these bones that are over 25,000 years old, and they're human.
Yeah.
So they start to think that it's this man who's a devout Christian who's been trying to keep the king alive, that it's only 6,000 years. And they start making these comments like, oh, and the people that believe that we're only 6,000, ha, ha, ha. Right? So they make, so that's weird enough. But then it goes to a totally different angle where they start saying that they found Neanderthal bones and Homo sapien bones.
Yeah.
Which to me all of a sudden clicks. The Homo sapien is the Moor.
Right.
The Neanderthal
Is the right.
is
The other.
So then, okay, what they find though is they find a man who's Neanderthal, a woman who's, so we'll say a Neanderthal who's the European.
Yeah.
They find a Homo sapien bones which are female.
Yeah.
So that's the Moor and the Neanderthal.
Right. Yeah.
The same story.
Right.
Then they find a child, and the big discovery is the child is the combination of the two.
Oh, for real? Okay.
Right? So then they find, because they can tell by the bones that they've been killed in a certain way, so they're thinking that this happened back, well, they're trying to figure out how they died.
Right.
And what they realized was they have this thing where they figure out that the man's been hit with an arrow because they can see a nick on his bone, and what they figure is that a third party came along, and that basically what they figure is that this couple has been ostracized.
Yeah.
Because it's European and Homo sapien, and someone's come along and killed the both of them because they're mixing and they're not supposed to.
Right.
But they're 20. But now that they're connecting that the human race is 25,000 years.
Right.
And the child they can figure, because the child's teeth have been ground down, that the child died because basically the two parents died and the child just died. So the bones were, and so they can tell by the way the bones were, the child just laid down and died together. But when they play out the scene, because what they're doing is then they just have the bones, but then what they want to recreate it. So they have the European come and go, so I'm the man.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, how come you're the man? He goes, no, I'm the man.
Yeah.
So he's then stating for sure that he's
right.
He's
right.
The woman who's the boss, she plays, but she's of course an African.
Right.
She plays the woman. My jaw dropped.
Yeah.
So they play out the scene where supposedly the man gets hit by the arrow.
Yeah.
Right? So the ape goes down, she goes to protect him, her larynx gets crushed.
Yeah.
So she's dying. He's able to pick up the thing, kill the man.
Right.
He goes over to help the wife, dies, the child dies.
Right.
But basically, what I said, is
Yeah.
this what they're telling us?
Telling, yeah.
But what I realized, and then I started to think, why would they be doing this? Then I started to think that I wonder whether they're trying to now tie themselves back
Right.
into,
Without tying themselves back.
but also tying themselves back in a way as if it's some consensual
Right.
situation where,
yeah.
look, mother, whose mother
Yeah.
has brought in, right, Neanderthal.
Yeah.
I was aghast at this, but I'm
Sure.
telling you that it's out there.
Yeah.
That they're now trying to sort of, that's what, Neanderthal and Homo sapien. I remember being in science class, and they always had this picture of the ape
going into
to the man.
Yeah.
But now you're telling me there's two species?
Yeah. Right. You know, Aquarian age. You know, however it comes out.
I think I told you this before, but my belief is that to have the spells work, it's like, you know, I was thinking about this, and the analogy comes here. It's like, you know, for making an apple pie, but you're trying to make it fit, like you're making it fake, right? You still have to have some substance. You still have to have like the taste of the apple,
Right.
like the substance. You know how they say, you know, you have an apple drink and it says apple flavor.
Yeah.
You still have to have apple.
Yeah, in order
make
to
it
extract
work.
that flavor. Yeah.
Right. So that's where the spells all have to have truth in them
Right.
to make it work, because truth is truth. Truth is ought.
Right.
Falsehood is not. It can't last.
Can't last.
But if we can tie it in say, 25,000 years ago, we were hanging out together.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah.
the woman took the man in, so we're really part, right?
Yeah.
Because what they're trying to now do is take what my belief is. Well, think about this, right? Through anthropology, they're trying to now put themselves into a place with us, right? I know it sounds sort of crazy, but
Man.
I'm just saying that's what I took from it.
No, for sure.
Right?
And I wouldn't even argue with that.
That's right.
I wouldn't even argue with it.
So anyways, that's why through all of this stuff that we're talking about, I just sort of thought I had to get it out there. Hopefully get it out to all the people listening that, something's up.
Right. Most definite. Right. We're gonna show another depiction of the Squamish Nation. This is the Squamish Nation logo. So if you can go Google them, Squamish Nation, and then you can see there's a little fez, looks like, on the head. Not only that, they have all these Aboriginal names or whatever, and then there's a 7 sitting there. Right?
It's on, eh? It's on. That's what it is. It's on.
So
everyone's subversively trying to tie themselves back to this.
everybody
Everyone's
is trying to tie themselves
because you know
back.
what? It's coming.
Yep.
It's coming. So if they can't
But-
tie themselves back to it in some way, then but still trying to keep their hand in the pocket of the European who has been feeding all of this,
Right.
right?
That's right.
Right. Again, Aboriginal. This is the ice sculptures from the last Winter Olympics. This was the opening ceremony of the Olympics. You have these 4 ice sculptures, right? Like this is the people down here, so you know how big these ice sculptures are, right? That's the people, and then that's the ice sculptures. And then 2 of the ice sculptures have fezzes on.
Oh yeah.
And this is like going across the world, international.
Wow. And where was this in?
This was when they had the
the Olympics. But
the Olympics. I think wasn't it Vancouver or something?
Vancouver.
Where's
It was
the
Vancouver. Yeah, just take a look at that.
Those 2 long things?
Yeah. Right.
It's on, eh?
So everybody knows, right? Everybody knows. So we're gonna go to now again. They're gonna talk about, oh yeah, we're not Indians or whatever, but you got the card that says you're Indian, so you can get your little tax benefits. Indian, an individual recognized by the federal government as being registered under the Indian Act.
Right there. It says it right there, doesn't it?
Right there.
Right there it tells you that it's about being registered
Registered, first of all,
under the Indian Act.
under the Indian Act.
So it puts you in a 14th and 13th and 14th, what do you call it, the
Amendment
position.
Fraudulent position. Right? Status Indians, or sorry, the Indian Act is referred to as a registered Indian. commonly referred to as a status Indian. Status Indians are entitled to a wide range of programs and services offered by federal agencies and provincial governments. Over the years, there have been many rules for deciding who is eligible for registration as an Indian under the Indian Act.
See that last little thing?
Over the years,
right.
There have been many rules for deciding who is eligible for registration as an Indian under the Indian Act.
Doesn't that say it all there too?
Right?
Right? Because why would you, if you were in your natural person, there would be no.
Why would you register? Why you register?
No, but why would there be any rules or
right?
Because he's saying
exactly.
Why would there be any determination except for the fact that I am who I am?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So if you say yes to us, then we give you this. If you say no, then you're not.
Exactly. Right. That's right.
Okay. Important changes were made to the Act in June 1985 when Parliament passed Bill C-31, an act to amend the Indian Act, to bring it in line with the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and again in 2011 with the coming into force of Bill C-3, Gender Equity in Indian Registration Act. So we ask the question now, if these people are one in rights and you know they have rights that people need to respect because they're the Aboriginal, Indigenous people, etc., right? Why don't they just go to November 2010 when Stephen Harper signed on to the United Nations Declarations of Indigenous People? Why are they arguing about some bill which isn't the law, which is statute, ordinance, etc., right? They're arguing about the bill. That the bill is stealing their land and all that stuff.
People are playing two sides of the same thing. That's exactly, they're playing two
right,
sets of cards.
exactly. And that's why they're trapped right now. Because in one hand they want the benefits, right? The Indian Act just said it. A whole host of programs and all this type of stuff. Chiefs driving around in beamers and all that type of stuff.
But the other thing,
right.
The government then has to just to play it to the world court, which where they're going to have human trafficking charges.
Right.
They have to keep that going.
To keep it going. But again, it's being kept going based on the ignorance of those people. Right. Not that the government is doing something evil against them and as well as stealing their land.
As well as their greed.
Right? That too. Because, they're acting like they never got any handouts. They're acting like, you haven't been getting taxes off.
This is where I think that they're totally wrong, because they would have all of this by their own naturalization. They would have control of all of this alone.
Exactly. Right? Control of it. Not, some use of it or programs or whatever. You would have control of it. Right? And then don't forget, in December 2010, Obama signed on to the UN declarations and endorsed them.
Time is coming.
Right?
They know it. They know it, and they know they have to be in line with this stuff.
And again, they're doing this and they're making these statements and they're saying these things, right? Because they know that time's up.
Yeah.
They know that time's up. But they can make a fight with you so they can stay here a little longer.
That's right.
Right? Then they'll fight you forever.
It's like you kicking them out of their house, and they're sort of
yes,
they're sort of like you're trying to walk into a different room, and then you're pushing that out. They're pushing that right. And what they also realize, and this is what I think, because the Bible is a set of codes and stuff like that. Most people are followers, right? So most people aren't questioning. Right. It's only a very few who've got that upper level of stuff, right? So for the most part, if you can still keep 90% of these people 90% of these people believing,
Mm-hmm.
then they can hold on just a little longer, right?
That's
Right.
right.
Because it's going to be awful cold out there when they get kicked out, right? And that's going to be the least of their problems.
Right, exactly. Right, and then don't forget also that, you know,
This is also
them,
karma thing,
them, yeah, but remember, them getting kicked out, we don't want to inherit any more karma again. This is why it's about going back to the prophet, learn to love instead of hate, right? It's not that serious, because just like you're saying, they put it out in the movie, they put it out in the TV show, that there's a hybrid and then there's an original, and the hybrid and the original are one and the same. They're relative.
Or there was a species that came out of that is relative.
That's relative. Regardless, they're relative.
That's right.
There's not those ones and then these ones, and they're relative. Because Noble Drawley came and he said he came for the nations. Divine warning by the prophet for the nations.
No, what I mean by saying to kick them out, what I mean is that my feeling is there's a set of people, you know, there's a sort of the upper echelon vampire who is in, you know, because like you say,
usurping. Yeah.
because like you say, really at the end of this, we just want equality. I think, right? If for lack of a better term,
Right.
we just want this sort of oppression to end.
Right.
But there's still the sort of skull and bones that Taj
Yeah.
talks about.
Yeah, yeah,
There's still that ruling
Jesuit
class.
order and those guys.
So
Yeah.
that was another thing. This is all in the same TV day. Okay, so I watched. They have Golden Globe Awards on.
Yeah.
Right? They have the 3 shows that they have. The 3 main ones going for best TV thing are, and I watched one of them. Was Lincoln.
Yeah.
Lincoln.
Yeah.
Tied the slaves together. Zero Dark 30, which was the one where they got Obama.
Okay.
And the next one, which passes my, which escapes my mind right now, but will come back to me. They were all on American
Yeah.
sort of not history. Oh, the other one was Argo,
Right.
which is where they depicted the CIA going into Iran to pull those set of guys out who escaped to the Canadian embassy and were hiding out there
Right.
when all the Iranians were coming to kill all the Americans, because what had happened was, and I'll just get to the other story, was that they tell the story that the English and American corporations went into Iran to take their oil, and the way that Iran got their oil back was by nationalizing.
For real.
That's how they got their oil back. And then what they did was they kicked this Shah out, and they brought in the Ayatollah Khomeini. Right. And that's where that whole era came by about that. Then when they went into, and this is based on a true story, when they stormed the embassy, 7 of these guys escaped to the Canadian embassy, and they were hiding out. And meanwhile, they were reconstructing all of the photographs of all the people in the embassy, because they wanted all these people to pay, and they realized there were 7 people out there.
Yeah.
So they then pretended that they were filming a movie, brought these guys in, and brought them out. Well, guess what? As they are putting out the 5 best films for best theater, guess who walks out? The President Clinton at the Golden Globes.
Right.
President Clinton, ex-President Clinton, to come up and say, in the period of time, I'd like to see that back then Lincoln held us together, and I'd like to see that happening. And I don't know what happened, but it was a magical day to watch. Everyone's, you know, and you have Denzel Washington sort of with this like look on his face, and they show Puff Daddy, right? This is some weird stuff.
They show all the black guys. But don't forget, Bill Clinton's a black guy.
That's right. But then you had all the other Europeans on. Right? And Bill Clinton said, and Lincoln brought us together then, the Union together, the Union. He kept using the term, he never used democracy. He brought the Union together then, and we're hoping that the Union stays together now. So it's, no, but I'm telling you, when would you ever see at an event?
Something like that.
You're talking, you know how much security must have been there for this president, the ex-president, to come flying in to make a speech on Lincoln, who really didn't free anyone, right?
Right.
Sorry, just I had to
get it out
there, because what I'm saying to you is it's out there.
It is out there.
It is out there. And what's happening is the medium, which is TV, They have to use it because it's mass. That's mass.
Yeah, that's mass
sort of
And
distribution.
inoculation.
They're not going to
That's
use anything in print because the sheeple ain't reading. They're watching TV.
Right.
That's right.
They're on their
listening to
phone.
videos
They're
and
on
on their phones.
That's right.
They don't want to have
That's
to
right.
expend too much brain power.
Right.
That's
So
right.
it's just tell me
And
what it is.
And what they've really got
I'll
90% of us caught up in is this glamour stuff.
Yep.
Right? Because I was seeing over the film, and they're more interested in what the people are wearing. What's she wearing? You know what I mean? And you realize that that's what they got all of us focusing on,
Right.
This fiat, this crap. But then you got him talking about the Union, and of course Lincoln wins for best, or I think Argo actually won, which to me was sort of weird because what I think they were trying to then sort of push was still this CIA sort of clandestine activity, which is really what's going on.
Which is really what's going on. Yeah. Right.
Some really weird messages.
Yeah, man. Some messages.
Clinton's right there, you know what I mean? Because he's the original black man, right?
Yeah.
Right, isn't he?
Sax player.
Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, anyways, I had to, those two things hit me. That whole, what I realized is it's coming out,
big time.
and they're bringing out the fact that we're not 5,000 years old, we're 25,000 years old.
We're a hell of a lot older than that.
I know, but they got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Probably, right?
But also too, remember they can't go too far back because they're trying to include themselves in it.
That's
So they
why
can't really say
that's what-
millions or whatever.
that's why I
because-
wanted to ask them. Oh, because that's what they said. The Earth was 4 billion years old, right? But then they're trying to tie themselves to 25,000
Right.
years ago.
You know, which is still, you know.
I
mean,
still think that there
ain't
could be
nothing.
something still a little bit funny about, but maybe that's where it actually has. Maybe that's where they have finally tied themselves back to, right?
Right.
The original hybrid, right? The original child, right?
Yeah.
The combination. Because what they could tell by the forebrow, that the Neanderthal man has the forebrow of the ape, whereas the Homo sapien, right?
Right.
Anyway, sorry.
All good. Right. Note that most of secondary records had errors in regard to the 5-monk team. Huishen or Hoishin did not appear to have taken part in the AD 458 journey to Fusang, and he merely returned to China in AD 499. The speculation is that the trips from China to ancient America was frequent enough for Huishen to go to America and return to China on different ships. Should monk Faxian had returned to China from India by ship at the time frame, why would it not be possible that monk Huishen and et al. Could have traveled to ancient America? Professor Wei Shu Xian, Hsien, listed abundant written texts from ancient Chinese chronicles about the existence of 1. The deep sea valley beyond Japan, 2. The Father Mountain Island in the possibly Pacific Northeast, 3. The Brown Bear stories, 4. The Redwood trees. Professor Wei had citations of dozens of entries about the redwood tree, which was known to ancient Chinese as Fusang in Chinese texts prior to BCE eras. Apparently, the ancient Chinese in AD eras, i.e. Monk Huishen of the 5th century, had mutated the ancient term Fusang to mean something different from redwood tree. Professor Wei Zhuang validated that though America had no iron, ancient Peruvians had imported iron from ancient China for cutting the stones in the palace construction. Also, Professor Wei Zhuang validated ancient Chinese texts as to the abundance of silver and gold in ancient America, and that the American natives did not treasure the metals as recorded in Liangshu, and that's from imperialchina.org. During the most recent of ice ages lasting from 30,000 to 10,000 years ago, an undersea ridge between Siberia and Alaska emerged from the sea. Known as the Bering Land Bridge, it lies partly south of the ice cap. It develops a steppe-like ecology of grasslands grazed by large animals such as horses, reindeer, and even mammoth. Gradually, in many separate incursions, the hunter-gatherers steeped in pursuing their prey across the land bridge and into America. When the melting ice submerged the bridge about 10,000 years ago, the Northeast Asians became isolated as Aboriginal Americans. And that's from historyworld.net.
Well, that was a popular, theory for a long time.
Yeah, right? So the question, who is on the reserves today? So we'll go to Yafa Bay. The people you see on the reservations today are the descendants of thousands, maybe millions, of Indianized Europeans and the descendants of the Europeans that had children with our people. Some of them are Shemite half-breeds of us. Some are descendants of Asians that crossed the Bering Straits. Yet most of them are just Europeans whose ancestors came to us as refugees. It is simple as that. They ran away from their own people seeking to be saved by us. In return, they repay our people by claiming to be us, calling us Africans, and denying us access to our own heritage documentation. Ancient ones, or Atachthans of America, erroneously called African Americans, then those are the people that predate everyone else here, but have been supplanted and usurped by pale-skinned foreign invaders. If you mean slaves of America, native is synonymous with nativus, which means slave or servant.
Say that last part again.
Native is synonymous
Native.
with nativus, which means slave or servant. That's why we're not natives. Because if you're a native, that means you're a slave or a servant. Then that would encompass, if you mean slaves of America, then that would encompass a whole array of folks that include the autochthonous Americans, the Chinese, some Africans, and many so-called whites. As well as any combination of mixed breed, crossbreed, half-breed, hybrid, metis, metizos, and or Shemnites. If you are referring to those on reservations today, then those would be a predominantly Indo-European, which also means Indo-Germanic people, intermingled with mixed breed peoples that are part African, part autochthonous American, part Asian, primarily Chinese, and or part European, primarily Germanic. However, the vast majority of people on most reservations today are highly mixed with European or are plain European. Most of them ran amongst the autochthonous to escape their own oppression, mistreatment, and persecution. Some were agents, infiltrators of the crown, heads of the Europe and the church. You may find some.
Where is this that they're connecting this to? Sorry.
Where
is that these people that you're talking about?
These are the people that are on the reserve right now.
Oh, I see. Are all those people, and then you're saying some of them are actually
Europeans
and agents
right.
And all this kind of stuff.
Okay. Right. You may find some rare autochthonous among them. Your co-workers may be part Asian, part African, part autochthonous American, erroneously called African American, and part European. That is what is left on the Vatican agencies, now called Indian reservations, mixed breeds, and Europeans. When referring to these concentration camps that the autochthons were forcibly contained on, the term agency has been replaced by the term reservation. Any Americans that still live there probably think they're African. With the people on the reserves. Jesus. Right, with the people on the reserves, right? So
you're saying only the people that would be sort of traditionally Moor would think they're African.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Now, let's ask this question though. Who's this? Where are these people from? based on the, just looking at this picture.
I would think somewhere like Peru, Mexico-ish, possibly. Like, I mean, that would be my guess. But they look somewhat European too.
Right. What about the dress code?
Well, the poncho in a sense, right? I don't know. That's what I would be getting to.
You ever see those
Or Indian?
You ever see those movies when people picking rice
Yeah, and the fact
and they wear a kind of hat?
yeah, right.
Yeah, the hat. I guess I've been looking. You're talking about yeah. So
And remember we were talking about the Bering Straits?
Yeah.
And then people coming over the Bering Straits and all that
So
stuff?
this is what Greenland or something maybe.
This is indigenous people, so-called Indians in America,
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
right?
Okay.
But they're wearing
Right, holy hell.
rice paddy hats from China.
Okay.
Why are they wearing rice paddy hats from China? And if they're wearing rice paddy hats from China, that means they're not indigenous to America.
No.
If they have Chinese customs.
But in essence, wouldn't if we look back to when they were talking about how Pangea, when all the landmass
Right.
was together,
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, some of that would explain this too, right?
Right. The cultures
we
being
were all together at one time, and then
Right.
once that bridge
Done.
went
And the
away, they were stuck with the
stuck
culture.
with the culture
But
that
now
they-
they're on this side, and then once
Right.
the misnomers come in, you can't explain why this guy
why
got this
he's got this hat on,
and he's over here.
but he's over here. But he has this hat over here. No different than, we have ancient artifacts showing or names
That would be connected with.
Africa in America,
That's right.
right?
Gotcha.
Because there's a the Moor's been everywhere,
And
and
war was everything.
when we come back into our correct status, right, we would eliminate the fighting this guy.
Infighting.
Well, not even the infighting, but fighting them, the European, the invader. Like, we wouldn't fight them if we know what's up, right? I don't know more. What are they fighting for? Fighting for reservations, selling reservation land. That's concentration camps. You're fighting for people
you're
who want
saying
to sell concentration camps.
You're saying you claim our state. That would be it.
I brought you your nationality, your religion,
You do it there.
and the title to your vast estate. What do you want me to do? Kill you? Right? That's our religion. Put this one on the record. Big up to Brother Dre for dropping this one. This is the Toronto Sun. Remember we were talking about everybody knows what's up, and okay. Toronto Sun, Thursday, December 20th, 2012. Kenny says system will not screen for Islamism. System will not screen for Islamism.
Okay.
When's the last time you heard Islamism mentioned?
Only one place.
Where's that?
Here.
Here.
Ottawa, responding to calls from a security expert that Canada needs to better screen prospective immigrants for Islamism, Citizenship Minister Jason Kenney says Canada does not build bias into its immigration system. Kenney pointed to several recent changes in the immigration system, including the faster removal of Foreign Criminals Act and a biometric screening program that comes into effect January 2nd as improving the screening process. Whatever kind of extremism it may be, we'll be in a much better position to ensure that the people who pose a threat to Canada security do not get in, and if they get here, get removed more quickly. On Tuesday, the Macdonald Laurier Institute published an interview with Scott Newark, former Crown prosecutor in Alberta, in which he calls the Canadian government to do more to keep Islamists out. So they're making a distinction.
I know, it's interesting how they've been, you know how they use Islamism, extremism,
Right.
and Islamists.
Right. Right.
Weird how I think they're playing games there with that.
Big time. I'm saying that being tolerant of intolerance in the name of tolerance is potentially dangerous.
Sorry, could you go further?
That's it.
Intolerant
See, that's all.
of
Being
intolerance
tolerant of intolerance.
Being tolerant of intolerance in the name of tolerance is potentially dangerous. Newark told QMI agency, Islamism is an all-consuming and eradicating secular democracy. The Muslim community in general is among the fastest growing in Canada and one of the least interested in integrating. Noble Jolly said, no amalgamation. Right?
So these Muslims that they're talking about, I think, are
the quote unquotes.
Right.
Right? But
in a sense, it could be doublespeak
for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. Right? They are economic migrants. They have no interest in integrating, says Dr. Salim Mansour, professor.
Sorry to interrupt. Integrating to me means towing the company line.
Right.
Right. Becoming Canadian.
Becoming Canadian.
Which is a
corporation. Right.
Wow.
Why would we give them citizenship? Why let their numbers grow? If that continues, it will eventually reshape the values of our country. Racial profiling. Mansour would like to see a moratorium on all immigration from Muslim countries. Isan Gardi, Executive Director of CARE Canada, the Council on American Islamic Relations, cannot believe this discussion is happening in 2012. We recognize security professionals need tools to do their jobs while respecting civil liberties. But when it comes to screening, we're concerned with singling out people with particular backgrounds because it has the potential for racial profiling, Gardi told QMI agency. But it's also dangerous. It vilifies and marginalizes a minority even further. Gardi also rejects the idea Muslims don't want to integrate with or into Western societies. New York's idea will only create fear and suspicion, Gardi says. So we just wanted to put that one out there, just because I never heard Islamism mentioned out here ever, other than through us, right? So, one, they're taking notice because they're recognizing that there's, jurisdictions of Islam that are here, and they recognize that some of them are radical and some of them we have to pay attention to, while there's ones that are striving for peace and having civil liberties and being respected, etc. Right? This is on CP or 24 newspaper. Last week Friday. Non-status Aboriginals now Indians.
Non-status
Aboriginals.
Now Indians.
Now Indians.
Now they're taking claim for the ones.
They're claiming on the ones that claim not to be Aboriginal that you're now Indians.
But they're saying
non-status. Yeah. So Aboriginals who aren't considered Indians.
Yeah, but wouldn't an Aboriginal be who we are supposed to be?
Right.
So they're saying those ones. They're trying to.
But remember, this is.
Right.
Remember that this is now mentality.
Right.
So Aboriginals meaning the native population, right?
Ah.
The misnomer, the Shemnites, the ones came over on the Bering Strait pretending to be.
They're trying to take claim of those people.
Right. They're claiming.
In a sense, though, going against the very words of what says in the Constitution, or I think it was the Treaty of Friendship or whatever, where anyone who couldn't prove that
the citizenship,
became Moors.
Right.
Now what they're trying to say is anyone who can't prove anything
you're Indian,
which puts you into
the jurisdiction that we're trying to get out of in the first place, right?
They're a set of crooks, eh?
But remember also too, you know, they can also be cleaning the slate for us to make our claim. Because if they're going to say that those people that are called Aboriginals aren't really Aboriginals, they're Indians,
we're getting a step closer to something.
Then that means the Aboriginal door is open for somebody to claim it. If those guys aren't it, somebody has to be it. But, you know, they could only be it if they make a claim. If they don't make a claim, then that birthright door is now open, because the people who they said were Indians aren't. The people who they said were Negro, black, colored people aren't. But there's something.
So what you're saying is, once those Negro, black, and colored people claim themselves Aboriginal,
that's where
they are. Because those Aboriginals who they say weren't
Aboriginals, and
they're Indians.
And the court stood up and said it. No, whether it was fake court or whatever, right? They came out and they said. So, in a landmark case spanning more than 10 years, a federal court judge ruled Tuesday that Metis and non-status Indians be recognized as Indians. Métis. Right?
Métis, which is huge, right? Because they're all the Quebec.
That's pretty much right. The case was brought in 1999 by Harris Daniels, the now deceased Métis leader who sought to secure the same rights and benefits afforded to Indians. Right? Come back to the same thing. Wanting to get benefits, wanting to get handouts, wanting to get programs, because we're in such a bad situation, so we need help. All right. Ahead of the decision, the Métis National Council said it hoped the decision would end their shameful federal exclusion from meaningful processes.
These are a set of fools. Then.
So now they're jumping in to the same jurisdiction,
into the same cauldron,
right? That the I don't know more people are trying to say we don't want to be part of.
Can I really just ignore that?
They're no more ignorant than us.
Yeah, Negro, black, colored, they're no different, because they're all under that minority King Alfred plan that's dropping. So ahead of the decision, the Métis National Council said it hoped the decision would end their shameful federal exclusion from meaningful processes and address their self-governance claims. It's not entirely a victory, as the judge granted only one of 3 declarations. The Métis claimed the Crown owes them fiduciary duty and their right to negotiate over treaties and land claims, both of which were dismissed by Judge Michael Phelan.
So what was that last part?
The Métis claimed the Crown owes them fiduciary duty and their right to negotiate over treaties and land claims, both of which were dismissed by the judge. So their right to treaties
and to
land claims,
because they've been put into that
status. So now you have no claim. You have no right for anything now.
So but basically what they've been looking for is a little bit of money.
Little handout. Little whatever they could get. Right? So now remember, we're talking about Stephen Harper signed on to the Declaration of Indigenous People. Right? And when we go to Part 1 in the General Policy, Article 1.
Is this Declaration
of Indigenous People. Rights of Indigenous People, yeah.
Really? Okay.
Right? General Policy, Article 1. This convention applies to A. Tribal people independent countries whose social, cultural, and economic conditions distinguish them from other sections of the national community and whose status is regulated wholly or partially by their own customs or traditions or by special laws or regulations. Right? B. People in independent countries who are regarded as indigenous on account of their descent from the populations which inhabited the country or a geographical region to which the country belongs at the time of conquest or colonization or the establishment of present state boundaries, and who, irrespective of their legal status, retain some or all of their own social, economic, cultural, and political institutions. Right? This is the part right here that's colossal in
Part that you're
the
gonna read
Declaration.
now?
Yeah, this part that I'm going to read now. Self-identification as indigenous or tribal shall be regarded as a fundamental criterion for determining the groups to which the provisions of this convention apply.
That means you tell it who you are. Nobody else has to.
Self-identification.
This is basically to completely back up the whole idea of the fraud.
And to back up the whole idea of Article 5 in the rights of the Declaration of People, every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Stephen Harper signed on to this.
No, but the whole point is that if you don't want to claim it,
Then they're claiming it for you, and they'll call you Indian. Just like the court just
well,
did.
that's what I'm saying. But the whole matter is all you have to do is claim it.
Just claim it. Once you make a claim, especially if you're making an indigenous claim, right? You make claim.
Yeah.
Anybody claim anything.
Yeah,
But if you're making an Aboriginal indigenous claim in your free national name,
Yeah.
which is the actual name that's in all the treaties that this
It
government
harkens back to the
Has-
tribes
Right. goes back,
whatever.
Whatever.
Back to the land.
right? Once you make that claim, a foreigner can't claim on top of that.
That's right.
Period.
As well as that claim then supersedes any claims that they have due to what they were saying about land of being occupied through treaty.
Right.
There was a part there that you read
Yeah.
about
Boundaries and trees.
but also about you were reading some part in there about if they come in through occupying the land through a war. There was
Right.
some part that you read there, something about them occupying it through a war or something like that. That it's
Right.
all right.
Super.
Thanks to go on.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Right. Now let's just touch on. We got about 7 minutes left, right? So we're gonna touch on nationality and touch on civil mortus versus in full life, right? So
Civil
about
dead?
nationality, yeah.
So okay.
Right, about nationality. Nationality is that quality of being and confirmed and participating in part of a nation. Those who are not part of a nation have little or no considerations forwarded them. Then, nations congress in council and confer to consider the economic and political affairs of the nations. If one is outside of the order of nations, then one is hard-pressed to expect the laws of the families of nations to secure one's right, or for the citizens of the nations to come to one's aid or to one's service. This can be most critically understood when one is in need due to the negating effects of slavery, forced servitude, human rights violations, civil disorder, or if one is under colonial occupation as presently exists in North America. The Moors of North America have been held to forced servitude and were, by deviance, placed outside of the constitutional fold of government by the European occupiers, who have branded the Moors as Negroes, blacks, coloreds, and Ethiopians, etc. It is definitively vital and important that the true birthright status of the people, Moors, be addressed in a more formal and documented political format, and given considerations on a more serious social, political decree and principled level. Thus, the subject matter and issue of permanent character comes into play within the arenas of national, international, and world affairs. Right? So, going back to what we were saying about the jurisdictions. Huh? Oh, this is Rights of Indigenous Peoples booklet, prefaced by Grand Sheikh Natural Bay, edited by Taj Tariq Bey, and this is a book put together by the Great Seal, MST of A. Civic Instructions booklet, the Rights of Indigenous People. So the subject matter and issue of permanent character comes into play within the arenas of national, international, and world affairs. So the I'll No More movement making their claim or making their argument to the subordinate of the Queen, right, means that they're not dealing with things on an international level. They're dealing with local. And if you're dealing with local, it's because you're not talking national.
Also,
because if they were talking national, they'll be up in The Hague.
Yeah, of course.
Talking that these bills that the Canadian government is doing. You know,
they're still talking at the corporate level.
Right. Exactly.
That's what's really going on.
That's
why they can't even talk to the Queen.
Right, because even she doesn't recognize Canada as legit.
Because
or she would be here
representing. I'm telling you that that's part to do with the Queen. There is no part of that.
Right.
That's a corporate entity.
Exactly. And that Queen's position is a corporate position.
That's right.
Right. So even if they go to her,
right,
they're still de facto. But
the reason why she's not involved is because there would be lots of issues there.
Right.
So she just steps out of it and lets her henchmen
deal with it. Right. Her de facto power.
Or her underling.
Right. Right. Civility mortus versus in full life. The social political status and caste position of civility mortus means dead in the eyes of the law. Keep in mind that does not only apply to people. Fraudulent contract is dead in the eyes of the law.
Oh, I see. Yeah, of course.
A fake treaty is dead in the eyes of the law.
But only if you claim it.
And if the treaty isn't legit, if the treaty's fraudulent, right? Breaches the laws that govern contracts, then that treaty is void. Period. Like it's void.
But
only if that's the argument.
That's right.
That's not the argument. They're arguing some bill that he passed or that he's going to pass. They're not arguing that they're violating a treaty.
The bill, yet again, is this over here.
Right. The carrot on the stick.
When really, wow.
Right.
So that's what this is all about, to sort of keep people looking over here.
Right. Look,
when the real part of it is that
nationality.
But the real part of it is we're trying to make some money off your land.
Right.
But got you up in here thinking that it's about this bill C-47. And she goes on a hunger strike to probably pad her little pocket to make, it's almost like,
make it look,
well, watch me over here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, man's in the back making the deal.
Right. Because that's how they lost everything in the first place. By their chiefs going making back deals. That's why they're under reserve in the first place.
That's what you said before.
Yeah, because it's the chiefs that made the back deals, as Indian tribes and as these names that have nothing to do with.
Part of me thinks, not to say that I defend it, but when you're talking about that other chief that they brought to that village where he then became the Jesuit village for 5 weeks before he was something, and then all of a sudden he claimed it.
Right.
As I say, you wonder, because we look back to some of the atrocities, not to say that we haven't been involved in some of them, obviously, but, by hook or by crook, they have, maybe they kill a few people, right? I mean, they were talking about this stuff back in the day that some of the strongest leaders, what they did was go off them, and then whoever's left.
That's the leader.
Well, that's right, and he might not decide to stand up for anything. I'll just sign my life,
or sign the paper.
Okay.
Okay,
you'll give me a couple million too.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll take that.
Right.
All right.
Because if you check right now, the chiefs right now, like they don't live on the reserve and stuff.
I know they don't.
You know what I mean? They got big whips. They got chauffeurs and stuff like that.
What I understand too, which is interesting, that's
the one at the thing, at the symposium. Yeah, we were talking about that a couple days ago. Balling.
How are you gonna greet a card? And business kind of loan is expensive.
But if you think about it, that's where they put these casinos too, right? So they put them on these lands that are sort of not really lands, right? So I think that covers a lot of that stuff, right? Because I think there's certain aspects about putting casinos, right? I think that I don't know enough about it, but that's why we don't have casinos here, right? They only go on native land.
The casinos are there for the same reason that everything else is happening. It's on native land so that the chiefs can line their pockets. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Yeah, you're going to employ your people, and they're going to deal the cards and all that kind of stuff. But the house always wins.
No, but the reason why I say the issue with that is that casinos in general, you've known, like, people who have gambling problems, they'll go and they'll spend their whole.
Well, yeah, and
but the issue for that, the reason why I say that is, you don't really want to have one of those in downtown Toronto, because then you're going to have an upcry from people going, why are you placing, all this stuff? It's like liquor and strip clubs and stuff like that. You can't have them everywhere.
That's right.
Because then what you're really saying is
we're down. Yeah.
We're down with this. But if we can kind of pretend, we have it over there, we're not really involved in that. But if you got a problem, you're going to find your ass over there.
Right.
So it's plus they get the kickbacks from the money, obviously. Right. Sorry, I'm sort of seeing that as part of the issue.
Well, it's all part of it. It is part of it.
It is exactly. This is the past, present, and existing social and political status as assigned to all persons held under the brands and tags of Negro, Black, and Colored, etc. Throw Indian in there. All right. 180 degrees opposite social and political status, counter to civiliter mortus, is the superior and clear natural, social, political, and legal status of info life. Info life was and is the uncorrupted, normal, and honorable status as held by the ancient forefathers of these same Moors who have been calling themselves what they are not: Negroes, Blacks, Coloreds, Indians, etc. Info life is defined in H.C. Black's Law Dictionary on Ancient and Modern Jurisprudence as continuing both in physical and civil existence, that is, neither actually dead nor civiliter mortus. Upon this social, political reality, and with moral and spiritual considerations, Noble Juali, Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, declared to the Moors, "Be yourself." And so we are here today to remind you of that charge which must be fulfilled and is in your own best interest. So Noble Juali told the Moors to be themselves.
That's it.
Or in propria persona sui juris, or in full life, or know thyself, or proclaim your nationality, declare your nationality. You're not Negro, Black, Colored, Ethiopian, etc. Right?
At the bottom, staff, yeah.
Right? And let's just get the definition of status in there, and then we'll wrap up. Any comments or anything like that?
No, great class. This is
all right. So status,
That's the first thing I was going to come.
standing, state, or condition. The legal relation of individual to the rest of the community. The rights, duties, capacities, and incapacities which determine a person to a given class. A legal personal relationship not temporary in its nature, nor terminable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons and the state are concerned. It also means estate, because it signifies the condition or circumstances in which one stands with regard to his property. Status. That's why status is the first issue at law. That's why they say everybody has a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness or property. Because you can't have none of that stuff if you have no status.
And that status ties us back to our state.
Right, and the estate ties you back to nationality, because the nation is housed on the jurisdiction
In the geographical
space called the estate. Right? So, like we said when we started, I don't know more, but not M-O-R-E. I don't know M-O-O-R. I don't know more. Because our duty and our job is to be active. And the most active thing that we could do is go out there and tell somebody about their nationality and their birthrights. especially people who want to
Well, as well
jump
as,
into jurisdictions thinking that they're doing something for their people and all that stuff.
as well as the other thing we can do is actually do our package and become nationalized.
That too.
Right?
Make your proclamation.
That's right, right?
Right? If you don't do anything else, like Noble Drawley said, proclaim your nationality. He brought you your religion, nationality, and title to your vast estate. If you don't want it,
Let me kill you.
Right?
All right, sure.
We'll close out.
All right.
The prayer. Once again, Islam to the Moors online. We want to say Islam to all the Moors that made Canaanland, made Canaanland's temple manifest. We want to send a call out to all the Moors internationally, nationally, locally, to let you know that we are here and we're going to assist. Islam to the Moors who called me today, that wanted to be on they heard about the site, heard about whatever, and they wanted to be down. I'm glad you were here. To the 9 people on board, Islam to all the Moors in the temple. We know that y'all are in tune. So we're going to put 5 on the left, 2 on the right, and leave as we did come in peace. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice.
And justice.
Allah is our protector.
Allah is our protector.
Our guide.
Our God.
And our salvation.
And our salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
Through his and her holy prophet.
Through his and her holy prophet.
Noble Drawley.
Noble Drawley.
Amen.
Amen.
Ameen.
Ameen.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Islam.
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 Islam, Moors.
Islam, Moors.
Peace and love.
I got a quick question for you. What's going on with this? Are these guys